Are you somebody that's easily overwhelmed? Are you somebody that's struggles to be around people or loud noises or crowds and finds that you need to retreat afterwards and kind of recharge? Are you somebody that's easily frazzled by loud noises? If you've said yes to any of those things, like I have, there's a good chance you could be what's called highly sensitive. Um, I wanted to talk about my journey with this idea or with this trait and how I found out about it, because I found out about it way too later in life, way later in life than I wish I would have. But it's something that has now fundamentally affected how I look at myself, and it's changed a lot of things for me in the better, because once you kind of find out something like this, it's similar to, I suppose, the autistic spectrum, and I say that hopefully in a safe way, but it helps to color a lot of the experiences that you've had in your life and make sense of them, instead of them just being like, maybe I'm just a weird person or something, something like that. So we're gonna take this test together, and I'm gonna explain my relationship to all these different questions. Hopefully, not completely suppressing your ability to answer, but you can always come back and answer this as well. But it'll give you a little bit of insight into what I experience, because what I've found out now in my life, I'm going to be 37 here in a couple weeks, is that people are having vastly different experiences on this planet. Whereas we've been taught most of our lives that most people are having a very similar experience, or that we're like 99% similar and all this kind of different stuff. I think I kind of believed that for a while, and I tended to beat up on myself a lot more than I needed to, because I didn't quite fit in, always felt like a loner, always felt very lonely on this planet. And in my lifetime, around family, around friends, around mostly everybody. And once again, having some information like this helps to explain a little bit of that, of why your experience is the way it is. So, and once again, if we talk about the range of the spectrum of experience, if you're having something you thought was delightful, you're having some ice cream somewhere, and everything's going great, somebody next to you, or a child, maybe an autistic person, could be having a vastly different experience and a very, very shitty time. So, without further ado here, I found out about highly sensitive people about a year and a half ago. I got divorced and kind of started going down this rabbit hole of self-discovery, self-healing, things like that, that you would imagine somebody would do. I was married for 17 years, so my life was very much one way, and then very much, holy shit, oh my God, a different way. And I subscribe to this channel on TV. It's called, I had to look it up because it's been a while, but it's called Gaia. A lot of spiritual, self-help type stuff, things like that. When I signed up to it, the first documentary, the first show that was there was called Highly Sensitive People. And I've been kind of told that I was sensitive before, or it's been mentioned, but I didn't know it was a thing. I mean, it's like somebody saying you're sensitive to pain or something like that. You're like, yeah, stuff hurts. But I didn't really know it was essentially a diagnosable trait, and that 15% of the population, split between men and women, and we're talking about animals as well, experience this phenomena, or this trait, or whatever you want to call it, this characteristic, where their brain is processing things differently than the rest of the population. And essentially, when I say differently, there's a lot of different ways I can explain that, but in the most simplest of ways, our brains are processing things in kind of a more sped up capacity. We're taking in more information faster. We're taking in our environment faster. We're processing things a lot more quickly. Now, that might mean or sound to some people like you're trying to say that you're like superhuman, or that you're super intelligent, or whatever, and it's not necessarily the case. We're all equipped with certain DNA and certain types of human characteristics, and if you turn that up to 11, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be doing great. Some people do better with this than others, but it can absolutely be a blessing, and it can absolutely be a curse. There's balance to everything. So I watched that documentary, and it instantly changed my entire life. And that's not to say that the documentary was that great. If you want to look it up, Alanis Morissette, I believe, was a big person in the film, and she goes through this, and somebody that talked a lot about it. And her son, I believe, her husband also have the same thing. But like I said, it absolutely changed my life, and the reason being was because a lot of these experiences I've had in my life, even from a child, I can go back through in my head, and I was trying to justify all the time what was happening, or why I was different, or why I felt different, or why people around me seemed so much more different. And there's a lot of things I came up with, from, feeling like an alien, from, my God, the list is endless. And then when these people described their experiences, and they were so much similar to mine, it really helped me to kind of feel a little bit more at home in my body, in my mind, in the way I process things. And it helped me to understand more about when I'm feeling overwhelmed, because that happens all the time. It has always happened all the time, but I didn't necessarily know what to attribute it to. I maybe was just going to be more hard on myself, but now I'm like, oh, I'm actually experiencing being overwhelmed right now, and I didn't know that's what was going on. I need to come back down and relax and retreat for a little bit, things like that. I also attributed it to just being introverted. I'm a highly introverted person, so most of the time being around people, especially a group or a loud setting, I'm instantly just not having a good time, and very drained. And once again, coming up with ways to define that: energy, chakras, feeling drained, things like that. But which some of those things are playing into it, but also the highly sensitive things. So anyway, yeah, going back through my life experiences, it really helped me to tie a lot of things together. It really helped me to feel more comfortable in my own skin. It really helped me to see now, as I move forward, the strengths and the abilities that I have because of this, and also how they can play into weaknesses if I don't pay attention to them, if I allow them to get the best of me. So what I want to do here, like I said, is I want to take this test with you. I want to describe my experiences with these. I think it's something like, if you answer, I think it's 22 questions. Let me make sure here. If you answer, I think 14 or more, there's a good chance that you're experiencing this. Now, once again, as I've gone through this as well, I've also started to pick up on a lot of autistic traits that I have as well. And like I said, that's hasn't been a negative thing for me. It's been a very positive thing, because it explains a lot of things. It helps me to understand more about myself. And I think if you want to have a decent time on this planet, or this plane, or this lifetime, understanding these things about yourself is absolutely very valuable and very powerful. So yes, if you say yes to more than 14 of these questions, then there's a chance that you're experiencing this as well. And like I said, it's nothing to be that alarmed by. They don't, the medical community or the scientific community, whatever the hell you want to say, doesn't necessarily think of this as a negative thing or something you need to be medicated for or anything like that, even though it can become rather extreme, and it can become very problematic. But since, I guess, 15% of the population has it, they consider it to be a more normal kind of condition, not something you're going to go to the doctor for and be like, I'm highly sensitive, I need some pills. So hey, that's good. All right, let's start this. So, first question right out of the gate here. I am easily overwhelmed by strong sensory input. Oh my God. I am... I'm very, very sensitive to everything that's going on around me all the time. That goes into so many different directions that it's not worth trying to come up with stories and things like that. But either way, noises, music, films, people, one-on-one conversation, groups, restaurant, everything. I am always completely turned up to 11. I keep making that reference. Hopefully some people get it. But either way, always have been, always will be. And once again, knowing this about yourself now, if you do experience that, you can kind of back up and be like, oh, that's what's going on. And you can also know and see other people are not having the same experience. That is another part of this that I've recognized now that I've been dealing with the new life, is that I can see and identify people having a similar experience to me. It's like being tuned into a radio frequency and being like, that person's on the frequency, that person's on the frequency. So I can literally just look around and see almost instantly the kind of depth of the spectrum that people are experiencing. So Easily overwhelmed? Check. I seem to be aware of subtleties in my environment. So I don't know if that needs to sink in or not, but I pretty much already answered that. I am always completely aware of all the subtleties in my environment. It's nothing like militant or anything strange like that, or autistic spectrum for me necessarily, where it's like I walked into a room, there was 4 outlets there was one light there, it was semi yellow glow, and I noticed there was a ceiling fan, it was turned on to the second. Always attuned to all the subtleties in my environment, and they affect me very heavily. The color of a room, the ambience, the feng shui, the energy of a space, the people that left the room recently, I can feel all that stuff. Let's move on. Other people's moods affect me. So yes, I've always attributed that to being empathic and energy and things of that nature, picking up on other people's moods. I can read people's body language, their everything, facial expressions, all the ridiculous amounts of subtleties I can pick up on immediately. So subtleties, again, moods, yes, for me, check. I tend to be very sensitive to pain. Yes, this is something that's a little strange for me. I've had a chronic pain condition, which could be related to this, since I was about 22 years old. Pain every single day, mostly in my neck and shoulders, undiagnosable problem. And now I find out later that it's related to hypoglycemia and other stuff. But yes, all the time. Getting tattoos is kind of a nightmare for me, even though I love them so much. But yeah, it's the same as everything else. I'm very sensitive to it. So, check. I find myself needing to withdraw during busy days into bed or into a darkened room or any place where I can have some privacy and relief from stimulation. Absolutely for me, once again. This is the thing I talked about earlier, where it's having to retreat from maybe being an introverted person and being around people is too stimulating, or something of that nature, where you feel like you're drained and you feel like, whereas some people were like, that was so great and I had such a great time, and all that fun that we had at maybe going to a concert, maybe seeing a live band, even going to see the movie or something like that, can be sometimes too intense. Or you might be able to enjoy it on different levels, but afterwards you still need to kind of retreat and regain your bearings. And once again, I didn't know this about myself, so I would kind of keep pushing myself and punishing myself to have fun like other people were having fun, or try to fit into the mold of what they think is fun, while I was kind of just torturing myself. So that's another important lesson here as we dive into this kind of information, or we get into self-help type things. Somebody else's fun, somebody else's the way that they identify with fun, or their idea of what fun is, you don't have to try to fit into that mold. I tried to do that for a long time. I still try to do that sometimes, but as you get older, you stop caring as much, which is a wonderful thing. The weight starts falling off a little bit, and you're just like, I don't give a fuck. But yeah, especially when we talk about partying, drinking, things like that. It's another thing I had to abandon, because I never really had very much fun with it. My body was too sensitive to the chemicals, trying to process it. My body didn't break it down well. I was always the person that woke up the next day super hungover from not even that much, drinking, and other people were just like, cool, let's do that again right now. So you do not have to identify with other people's versions of fun. You can find your own damn version of fun, and then try to find people that adhere to that. And it's much better and more healthy. So let's continue to move on. Check. I am particularly sensitive to the effects of caffeine. I stopped drinking caffeine when I was 22, and I developed this pain condition. I've had it a couple times, mostly by accident since then, but my body hates caffeine. It sends the pain receptors and my adrenaline response and adrenal response, things like that, through the roof, and then I get much more worse. I used to not be sensitive to it, but at some point my body was like, no. So that's a little bit of a weirder one for me that might lie in the middle, but interested to hear how people answer that question. Either way, since I was 22, check. Let's see, where are we? I am easily overwhelmed by things like bright lights, strong smells, coarse fabrics, or sirens close by. I am a runner. I run every day. If ambulance or something gets close and drives by me, even while I'm out running, I have to plug my ears. It's something that shoots through my entire body and makes me very upset. And strong smells, I smell everything. I always thought it was just because I have a big nose and maybe a strong sense of smell. But either way, I smell everything. All the subtleties, all the time. Being around people that smell good can sometimes be a wonderful thing because I get to experience that, but it can easily become overwhelming. I always like to try to have candles. I grew up in a house where it was extremely meticulously clean all the time, and there was like smells in every room, potpourri and freaking candles. That's how my mother was. But a lot of times those things can kind of collide and just give me headaches, and I'm super sensitive to that. Also, I'm not sure if you're like this at all. I know a lot of people that did have problems with these things growing up. I was extremely sensitive to like socks, and if they had a seam and it wasn't fitting perfectly over my toes, nightmare. Shoes, underwear. I have the most expensive underwear basically that you can buy because I went to top tier and was like, these are the best, and so I'm still very, very sensitive to those things as well. Bright lights, always to bright lights. I tend to have my workspaces dark, and that's on purpose because the lights bother me, especially going into a place like Walmart is like walking into an alien ship or something, and it's very off-putting to me. So hopefully you're doing well with this. We're not very far down the list. As you can see, you can tell why this information was pretty shocking to me. So, all right, check. I have a rich, complex inner life. I think you can tell by this conversation so far that I'm having basically with myself is the inner machinations of my mind are an enigma. There's a SpongeBob reference. I don't even know how to explain the level of detail and ridiculousness that's always going on in my head. I'm somebody that has trouble sleeping, consistently and constantly processing information on so many levels all the time. And it can be an absolute nightmare. I've had trouble sleeping since I was 8 years old because of the constant bombardment. Tried to get into meditation here and continue to try to practice awareness and cultivate awareness and things. But I am constantly dealing with so many different things at the same time. And I have trouble shutting it off. I wouldn't say that I'm really able to shut it off. So, check. I am made uncomfortable by loud noises. We already kind of covered that. Absolutely. The strange thing about that, as we get into the sonic spectrum, the audio spectrum, is that I'm a professional musician, and I play multiple instruments, and I mix music and master music and write songs, and I can meticulously pick out every single subtle thing going on. But in the presence of people talking, music playing, other people talking, somebody talking to me one-on-one, I'm actually on the autistic spectrum, and my father's always been like this, and he always broke it down like that he had trouble hearing. And we're always like, yeah, Dad has trouble hearing. And then later in life, I'm like, that has nothing to do with hearing. Your decibel levels, hearing is decibel levels. You can hear something, you can hear something. I can't hear this frequency, I can hear this frequency. But having trouble separating between different language and things is kind of a different thing, and I never understood what that was. I have trouble with this all the time. If somebody wants to have a conversation and there's a TV on, I can almost not have the conversation. I need to turn that off. Same thing with music. My brain will completely suck to it, and I have trouble separating. So loud noises, of course, it's all the same stuff, but I'm deeply moved by the arts or music. Now, a lot of us probably feel like we're similar to that, but I'm in the arts and in the music because of those exact things, because of how much it's moved me my entire life. When I was 7 years old, I heard Michael Jackson, and that was it. I wanted to be a musician, and I have wanted to be a musician the rest of my life. So that's how much that affected me. Let's continue. Check. My nervous system sometimes feels so frazzled that I just have to go off by myself. Similar question, but probably kind of made in a different way here again. Absolutely. It's the same thing of feeling overwhelmed and needing to come back to like a baseline. I am conscientious. Absolutely. That's a pretty simple one as well. When you feel other people's pain, all that kind of stuff, you want to be kinder to people, you want to be more conscientious and all that kind of stuff. It's something I deal with as well. I startle easily. This is one that I can't necessarily identify with quite as much. I think since I'm usually quite aware of all the subtleties happening around me, that I don't quite startle as easily, but it's all kind of the same part of everything else. I've gotten better at people scaring the shit out of me and then not being like, so that's not really too crazy, but I think it's pretty much still easily a check in terms of my case. I get rattled when I have to do a lot in a short amount of time. So I'm always trying to do a lot of things at the same time, and I have trouble in terms of my life. I tend to process things as what somebody recently referred to as an extremist, all or nothing, which can be bad. Friendships sometimes as well. Trying to do way too many things, or I'm trying to do absolutely nothing and struggling to do both. Check. When people are uncomfortable in a physical environment, I tend to know what needs to be done to make it more comfortable, like changing the lighting or seating. Once again, I'm sorry to keep saying once again, but it seems to be, they all play into each other in a similar way. Being very, very aware of all your surroundings means that you're probably very aware of other people's surroundings and subtleties in there and comfort and everything like that. When it comes to even dogs, animals, children, I can tell everything that's going on all the time with their clothing, with the couch, if they don't seem comfortable. If I'm having a conversation with somebody, I can tell immediately when they deviate in their mind. I can tell everything. And it's not the most fun thing. So I am annoyed when people try to get me to do too many things at once. Plays into similar things that have already been going over. I'm already doing a lot of things. And if somebody's trying to get me to do more things, I'm going to have trouble processing that and dealing with that. And when I would deal with something like that, that also means that I'm dealing with the emotional maybe guilt or shamefulness of not being able to adhere perfectly to their request and things of that nature, which are ways that I beat up on myself for not feeling like validated or good enough or all kinds of stuff. So that's a big old check. I try hard to avoid making mistakes or forgetting things. So yeah, there's a lot of ways that my brain is lit up like the sun, and then because of that extra push towards those areas, other parts are very dark. What do I mean by that? I mean that certain parts of my I'm apt in certain ways, and then in other ways I'm very much not. I'm very intelligent in certain ways, and then in some other ways I'm not. I don't remember a lot of information. I'm terrible with numbers, dates, names. If you tell me your name, you're gonna have to tell me it like 16 more times most of the time, because it's just, I cannot separate the difference between all of the subtleties and nerves and anxiousness, introversion of meeting somebody and then trying to actually remember information at the same time. That gets into being young and taking tests and trying to remember information like that and recall it. I've never been good with that stuff. And like I said, it really plays into dates. And my ex-wife used to just think I was being kind of ignorant and trying to not do certain things because I didn't like them, so I would shy away from them, like numbers, maybe finances, things like that. But I'm not good at them, and even embracing them is instantly overwhelming for me. So, check. I make a point to avoid violent movies and TV shows. Yeah, violent things. I've never been a horror fan, never watched horror movies, because they affect me too much, and then they'll stay in my mind for sometimes months or years. I have gotten better as I've gotten older of separating between the reality of what's happening and the fake film. But if there's war in a film, I used to attribute that to past life stuff because it would affect me so heavily that I would become kind of sick and ill. I still can't watch movies with war scenarios, like Saving Private Ryan or even Forrest Gump. Like, Jesus, I cannot watch that stuff. it affects me so heavily that I can't do it. It makes me ill. So, good God, there's a lot of checks going on here. I become unpleasantly aroused when a lot is going on around me. We've already covered that. It is funny to use the word aroused because I'm ridiculous, but yeah, let's use it in the right way. And yes, let's move on. Being very hungry creates a strong reaction in me, disrupting my concentration or mood. I don't adhere to this quite as bad, but I know I've been around a lot of people where it affects them very much. I do have a lot of trouble with it, but I attribute that to hypoglycemia problems, sugar levels and things where, if I get too hungry, I'll start just diving pretty fast. So still kind of a check, but we don't have to check all these boxes. I'm not trying to be the hero of high sensitivity and be like, I got all of them right. So let's continue. Changes in my life shake me up. Not quite as bad with this, because my life is quite weird compared to a lot of people's working for myself, things like that. Actually, mundane, same thing over and over again type of jobs and stuff tend to really screw me up and make me feel very, very bad. So I tend to need a little bit of that. So that might not be a check. A couple more of these. I notice and enjoy delicate or fine scents, tastes, sounds, works of art. We've already gone over that. Absolutely for me. Check. I find it unpleasant to have a lot going on at once. Check. I make it a high priority to arrange my life to avoid upsetting or overwhelming situations. I am still not equipped enough to understand what it is that I need to survive better or feel better with these things that I experience. So I would not necessarily say that I've done very well with that yet. I probably would and will continue to get better at knowing what I need, when I need it, and what is going to overwhelm me and things. But I tend to just be this curmudgeon, old type person where I don't want to do anything, and then I get upset that I'm not doing anything. So once again, the extremist levels of doing too much or not doing anything at all. It always feels safer to just get upset and be like, I don't want to do that. And then I go do it and I'm like, that wasn't so bad. So I make it a high, I am bothered. We have 3 more. I am bothered by intense stimuli with loud noises or chaotic scenes. Once again, we've already gone over that. Yes. When I must compete or be observed while performing a task, I become so nervous or shaky that I do much worse than I would otherwise. That's a little bit of an extreme statement, but I absolutely identify with that. I once again attributed that to my introverted nature. I'm somebody that is in a field where I'm expected to perform and want people to look at me. I have my nails painted, I have bright red hair. Most people would think that means that I want to be looked at or I want to be seen. It's actually the opposite. I don't want to be noticed. I do these things because I enjoy them and because I like, experimenting with this type of stuff, or even with the nails and things. As I get older and figure these things out about myself, they feel like a celebration of who I am, and it's a lot of fun. But when I have to go out in public and remember, like, oh shit, I have bright red hair, I'm like, oh no. Or I wear a lot of hats. I have all these beautiful fedoras and things. I might as well have a wiener tattooed on my forehead because everybody stares and it makes me very uncomfortable. Always has. So, yeah, what's the question? Performing, being a singer, being on tour, all of these things I struggle with quite a lot. I've gotten better at them. I continue to get better at them. But yeah, even if I'm trying to type and somebody's looking over my shoulder, it's just my hands start getting ridiculous, and I have a lot of trouble with that kind of stuff. So last one. When I was a child, my parents or teachers seemed to see me as sensitive or shy. Absolutely. My whole family knew that I was shy. That's the way that we broke that information down, because I was born in 85. So once again, it's another way of trying to process things and be like, oh, I'm introverted, and understand them on that level. But little did I know there was a lot more things going on under the surface than that. So that's the end of the test. I'm very interested to hear everybody's experience with this, because learning more about how other people are processing their life, the information that goes on around them, their environment, their emotional situations is very, very interesting to me. I'm actually starting a podcast. So I think the first episode should be up here this week or next week, where I'm talking to people about all these types of things, emotional things, the way that they grew up, the problems they had and didn't have, how that turned them into who they are. I hope this did something for you. I know that it was a lot of me talking over these things. So like I said, if you want to figure this out, just type in the highly sensitive person. Sometimes this is abbreviated as HSP, or I have HSP. And like I said, it's a powerful thing to figure out about yourself. It'll help you to set up your life, to give yourself more advantage, to give yourself more strength, to help you identify with other people, to help you identify with other people's experience. Remember that if you're on a frequency that's a little bit higher than other people, then people that are on a lower frequency, you can see and understand and interpret their experience a lot easier and help people a lot easier. If you've gone through more suffering in your life, you can help people that are suffering because you've already been through that shit. Or you can at least identify with it and be empathic or be empathetic of their experience, and that's a really powerful thing. So remember, if you do identify with this, or this does make some sense to you, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be a really special and powerful thing, and it means that that you're a special person. And I know that feels cliche and kind of stupid, but it means a lot to me to figure these things out. So, and like I said, I'm 37. Hopefully you're younger than me, or maybe you're older than me. And this is like, oh my God, I didn't know I was experiencing this. Like I said, this is a diagnosable thing. This is something that you can have a brain scan done, and it can show that your mind is processing things or lit up in different ways that other people's is not lit up. So thank you for watching this. I appreciate it. I'm going to have a lot more videos like this here soon. So I hope you tune in, and I hope to see you soon. I hope to hear about your experience as well. Thanks.